I'm gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. George can't hit what his eyes can't see. All of you chumps are gonna bow when I whip him. All of you. I know you got him. I know you got him picked. But the man's in trouble. I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Bluffed him. I done everything. Beat him up basically for about 5 or 6 rounds. I thought it was easy. Then about the 6th round, he whispered in my ear after I'd hit him in the side, "That all you got, George?"
When you were a kid, you always bet certain fellas, I'm gonna be champion one day, and when I'm champion, I'm gonna come back and show you I'm wrong. Another said, guys, I'm gonna be a great doctor one day, and I'm gonna be a dentist, I'm gonna be a great scientist, I'm gonna be a president of the country. But very few people actually are able to make good of the boast and come home and say, I told you.
Hello, and thank you for joining the Walt Weekly Podcast. And this week's episode, the Walt Weekly celebrates Black History Month. I'm here with Keenah Parham, who's our backup for Michelle Sweeney, who's getting prepared for New York Fashion Week 2024. And we're also here with Miss Briggette Stokes, North Carolina's one and only. And today what we want to do is we want to talk about historic people / events. And each one of us is charged with, presenting you with some history. And it was somewhat liberal. Nobody's constrained to what we have to do. But, everybody had their choice of topics or persons or events that they're going to cover. So, of course, since I have seniority and I'm in charge, I am going to start first. And my choice is Muhammad Ali. So I just want to talk about, because he had an effect on my life. All right, but I want to give you a little bit about his early life. All right, and Muhammad Ali was born at Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January 17, 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. And he began boxing at the age of 12 after his bike was stolen, and he wanted to learn to defend himself. All right, later on, Ali won a gold medal in the light heavyweight division of the 1960 Summer Olympics in Rome, whereby he showed his talent on the international stage. And shortly thereafter, Ali became a professional. And he turned professional shortly after the Olympics and quickly made a name for himself with his unorthodox butterfly, sting like a bee style. Very charismatic guy. Very, very charismatic. I think that's why I fell in love with him. And he became the heavyweight champion in 1964 when he fought Sonny Liston in a major, major upset. I remember this very distinctly. This is my first time seeing him and listening to him. I was like 9 years old, 8 years old. And I mean, really, I was just astonished that we had a black man like him. And especially during civil rights. We were heavy civil rights people at that time. We were really working on civil rights. We were marching, we were protesting, we were throwing rocks and bottles. But Ali comes along and he gave us, hope that we were black people. I'm black and I'm proud. I'm black and I'm pretty. That's what Ali did. I never forget when he fought Sonny Liston, my uncle, and my grandma raised me. But I had a bunch of uncles. She raised a lot of kids. And my uncle was saying, I don't like Ali. He can't beat Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston's going to kick his... But I said, nah, I don't know about that, Uncle. But Ali took him down, and that was one of the happiest days in terms of sports that I've had in my life. And shortly after winning the championship, Ali converted to Islam and changed his name from Cassius Clay, which he called his slave name, to Muhammad Ali. Another thing Ali was noted for, and I think that's what made him the greatest of all time, that he went against the government. He stood up to the government when they wanted to draft him into the Vietnam War. But Ali was known for his stance against it. He didn't want to do it, citing religious reasons and refusing to be drafted into the military service, which led to his arrest. They stripped him of his boxing titles, and they banned him. In the prime of his boxing career, they banned him for 4 years. But that didn't stop Ali. He came back with the Rumble in the Jungle where he fought George Foreman. And I was scared for him. I tell you, this is in the 70s. I was scared for Ali. I mean, I saw George Foreman fight people. One punch, he would knock them across the ring. All right. But what Ali did, he employed, which you wouldn't expect of a boxer, the rope-a-dope. And when George Foreman got tired, Ali took him down. That was one of the happiest days of my life. And then in Thriller in Manila, 1975, he fought Joe Frazier in the Thriller from Manila, considered one of the greatest boxing matches of all time. That was a war between two men. There were two men in that ring, and they fought 3 times. Frazier won the first one, Ali won the last 2. All right, Ali, and everybody has to die. Ali died June 3rd, 2016, from septic shock. And he had Parkinson's, so everybody saw when he was shaking, this and that. And that disease was exacerbated by all the punches that he took during his boxing career. So he was my hero. He gave Black people hope that there would be a better day and that we were of value. We were of value. So that's my take on Ali, and I miss him. Lord bless him. I know he's in heaven. All right. So with that said, I got a couple stories that I want to tell you. I was working at the General Motors building in Manhattan back in 77. And it was right across from Central Park and out to lunch, actually. And I saw all this dust and yelling and screaming coming from Central Park. And I walked into the park and I saw hundreds of people behind Ali. Muhammad Ali was walking by himself. He didn't have any bodyguards. You can imagine today, you can't do that today. A man of such stature, he's the most recognized person in the world. He was in the park talking to his people, no bodyguards, extremely friendly, doing demos with his fists. Just amazing thing. And, this guy, he came at the right time in history when we had gone through the Civil War and we were still fighting for our rights. Black Panthers, Martin Luther King. We were in the midst of it. And to have someone like this was a value to he was a value to his race. And I love him and I miss him. And like I said, I know he's up there in heaven right now. That's my history, Black history story. And I now want to turn it over to Keenah Parham.
Thanks, Walter. I think a lot of people feel the same way that you feel about Muhammad Ali, growing up in a household where my parents were actually especially Black Muslims. So the importance of the information that he shared and the level of Black powerness that was needed, very much needed at that time throughout the Black community and especially amongst Black men, I think is definitely something that has trickled down across generations, even down to today. The person that I'd like to speak about is Michelle Obama. And I say that, there are always a lot of people that, resonate when you think about the discussion that you want to have with regards to people that have empowered you or have made change or have fought for civil rights within the past. But I kind of wanted to bring it a little bit forward and talk about something that I think is very much needed today. I feel like the First Lady Michelle Obama, she represented a quality, she represented a poise, she represented a path that is very possible today. However, we don't see it enough in the Black media. Today, what we see in the Black media is a lot of certain types of behaviors as it relates to individuals that are on, let's just say, the Real Housewives of Atlanta, behaviors on Love and Hip Hop and such. But what we don't see enough of on television is that, that poise and that education and that Black, still having the Black family type of a lifestyle that the Obamas brought to the public. So for 8 years, we saw a middle of the road Black family, right, conduct business. And it's not about the politics, but it's about the representation. They conducted business. They raised a family. They had grandma in the White House to help take care of the kids, right? Making sure that the children would still be protected by someone that is considered our own. But if we look at Michelle Obama from the early start, she was born in Chicago, right? She was raised up actually on the south side of Chicago. born back in January 1964. So she actually just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago on January 17th. She was one of two children. She has an older brother. Her family, they were raised just, middle of the road Black families. They were not wealthy. But they did seek importance in making sure that their children were educated. She was raised at a time in Chicago where there was a lot of white flight going on in the area, and her parents had decided that they were going to keep the kids there and they were going to make sure that they were educated. She was actually educated in one of the first magnet schools. I believe she skipped she did not have to attend the second grade, I think it was. She was also an honor student. She went on to college and she majored in sociology and African American studies. Then she further went on to attend Harvard, where she received a law degree. She actually followed her brother to Princeton. Her brother also attended an Ivy League school as well. So that kind of shows when I stated earlier that her parents were very huge on making sure that their kids were properly educated. And we know that proper education, whether it comes from college, trade schools, or just making sure that you're on a continuous learning path, is something that is very important. It's much needed for anyone as they seek to continue their journey in life and educate and assist and help others. Now, when she became the president, the first lady of the United States, which was definitely a new title for a Black woman, she graced the covers of the screen. She graced the covers of magazines with such elegance, such poise. You could see that she was definitely the backbone of the president, right? He held the top position, but you knew that whenever you saw him, that whether Michelle was standing beside him, she was there with him in spirit, holding him up and making sure that he was well equipped to get the job done. She held down not only the household with regards to raising Sasha and Malia, she also held down the household as, I want to say, the first mother, because her position as the first lady, she was heavily involved in the children of the United States. What is going on with the children of the United States with regards to education and with regards to childhood obesity and the health? So that was pretty much her platform throughout her years as the first lady. But not only that, when you look at Michelle Obama, she's strong, she's very witty, she's intelligent, she's dedicated, she's a mother, she's very worldly. And I feel like she's not only in touch with the Black community, but her ability to connect with people kind of transcends across different races. One of the things that she said before about America back in 2007 was, this country is suffering from an empathy deficit. If you don't have it in you to be able to walk in another person's shoes, it's going to be difficult for you to move through these problems. What we need as a country is to start caring for one another in a very deep and fundamental way. Another thing that she said is, despite any differences we may have, there is so much that unites us as Americans. The American people can handle the truth. They just need to know what it looks like. I think that's very important for us to hear with regards to across colors, races, creeds, and genders, because that shows that someone like her, who has a very strong, traditionally African-American background, is able to kind of raise up through the ranks, still understand the plight of her people, still understand what it looks like to create a plan and move forward and move her family forward and bring people with her, but also making sure she doesn't lose sight that we all face a lot of the same challenges across different cultures and across different races. So how do we work together as Americans and make sure that we can put our best foot forward and help one another, help each other up? So when they left the White House, they still have a lot of different platforms that they are operating on. They tend to, I think it's be producers or directors of a couple of different documentaries or television series. One that I saw recently was specifically to working. It shows the different types of work that people do, some of the behaviors that are associated with it, how it helps people fund their families, and some of the challenges that are associated with it. It really doesn't outline any specific race. It looks at America as a whole and the opportunities and the challenges that we have and how we can continue to move forward. I think that Michelle and Obama right now, even though they ran on a platform specific to Yes We Can, I think that even in their post-presidency, they're still operating on a platform to kind of help the country see the opportunities that we have at hand and how we can remain, further educated, stay in good health to be able to achieve those platforms. So I think that, when I look at Michelle, like I said, today she is a role model for a lot of people of color. And she's also a role model for people that are not a part of the African American community, because as I mentioned, she stands with poise education. She's a mother. She does all of these jobs very well, and she seems to care a lot about the community in various communities to make sure that, people can have the opportunities to move forward with their best foot. And if they can't figure out how to do it, to know that there's a community out here that can help them achieve their goals. So that's all that I had with regards to Michelle. Honestly, I can keep going on because I think she's an amazing woman and an amazing role model for today.
I know you can. Thank you so much, Keenah. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn to North Carolina's very own Briggette Stokes. How are you, Briggette?
I'm doing good. How are you all?
All right. We did ours. Now we're waiting for you. And let
Hello,
you close out this show with Williamston, North Carolina.
Thank you so much. I look forward for this moment to share some of my experiences with you with the panel tonight. I was very young, and I haven't particularly picked a particular person, but I also wanted to go in and focus on my experiences during a time that it was a lot of racial heat down in the South, and especially the small town of Williamston, my hometown, and to kind of talk a little bit about the unsung heroes, which are the ones that you don't always see names highlighted high, in the big newspaper. But, I, as well as you, Uncle Boopy, we grew up in a small town of Williamston. I made a little few notes because I had such a busy day today that, we came from North Carolina, Williamston, North Carolina. And at one point it was a thriving city. They had stores, the black people had their own stores. They had their own businesses, barbershops, daycare centers, the pool over there in White City. They had, just different various businesses, and we kept each other going during that time. And those were sort of like people that I really looked up to, those small businesses, black people that kept each other going, kept families strong and moving on. They kept us, if a family was hungry, we know we could go to some place like Fed Harvest store, and you could put food on the book for credit. And you pay a little bit at a time off to get by. Those are the unsung heroes. But there also was a powerful movement. They used to call Williamston Little Greensboro. It was known as Little Greensboro, North Carolina, because of so much tension there, racial tension there, and so much violence and deaths there. I think it was brought into Martin Luther King's attention that it was going on in this small town, and that how I think his name was Golden Frank, Frank was his name, Golden Frank. He was in charge of the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and Sarah Small. Do you remember her? Uncle Walter, do you remember Sarah Small?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Sarah Small, Mary Lewis Mobley. She was my mother's first cousin. All of those ladies were some of the foot soldiers out there. Some of the ladies, some of them is well known, but you got some that wasn't well known. It was such a hot spot in the civil rights movement during that time. And that Sarah, Mary Lou Morris and the Stein Bonds. I had to see, I'm older now, so I got to go back and really.
Bonds, yes, I remember him.
Yeah, that was him.
Bonds.
And Jackie Bonds, and then my cousin Lois Harris. She was all in that. She was one of the foot soldiers back then at that time. Since it was a small town, they were the young people that got out there and they were marching for equal rights and to get away from segregation. But I also can bring out even Coach Boone. I know you remember him. Herman Boone.
Absolutely.
And they made a movie about
Yes.
him. Remember the Titans, and he was also there helping the students to realize that they had to fight for what they wanted to have. So my town, I wanted to focus on my heroes, and those were just the town people themselves. And no national name, but those little town heroes. So I wanted to say tonight that how I can remember, I can only go on my memories because I was a little girl at that time, maybe about 5 and 6 when all that marching was going on, and how even my mother, Helen Louise Stokes, my aunt Mary Small, and my all my aunties from out of town or family would come out of town doing them demonstrations, and they would get out there and march. And I looked up to them to see how they loved their children enough to get out there and fight and show us as Black women and Black boys that we got to fight for ourselves. We got to get out there and march for ourselves. So they got down there, they got out there and they marched and they demonstrated, they raised money. I remember them raising so much money during that time. The churches would put together fundraisers, selling plates, whatever they had to do to bring in the power that they need or get what they needed to help support the marchers out there. And I don't know if you remember downtown when they had the march. I want to say the civil rights marchers had marched downtown. I remember that as a little girl, and I remember doing the demonstration. How as a child, I could remember even my father, Harry Stokes, coming in town, or family members from out of town will always come down to help support the cause. And you could hear them crying and screaming down in the streets. And I can remember my brother, my sisters, and my cousins being moved out of the parents that night or that evening couldn't find their children, or being moved from jailhouse to jailhouse until Martin Luther King and some of the other civil rights people had to actually find out where they were at. The white officers were moving them from place to place. So those are the kind of, but it was the unsung heroes that I see that made a difference in my life and made a mark in history. They may not never be heard of, but they were definitely the one out there fighting for us, along with those well-known people at that time. Also, I have memories of the schools being integrated. And were you one of the ones that actually went first group to go to the integration?
Yeah,
to integrate
that was a year. That was a year you had freedom of choice, and it was a gradual rollout. Right, you had freedom of choice, and then a year after that, you had full integration. So I was one of the ones that my mom selected to go, and I mean, it was good. It was a good experience, but then again, a lot of us got beat up. Even me, I had to be careful. But
Yes.
that was then. Okay, good.
That was
Go
then,
ahead,
yes. Because I knew my sister Dina. Dina was one of the youngest group that they sent to the elementary school. She and some of her friends.
I just want to add now. I just want to add. I'm sorry, but and it took more than one guy to beat me up. It was 3, always 3. They always fight in groups, right? So that's the only way they got me. Okay.
Because I remember my older sister Babs going to the middle school herself, high school. You probably was there then, and she said that if it wasn't from our cousin Jeffrey Harris, those white guys would have beat her, threw her down the steps. So, y'all was brave enough to go. I would see them crying every day coming home. My sister, she's being tears. She don't want to go back. Babs didn't want to go back. But Mom always taught her, this is for you, this for your little sisters. You got to do it. You got to do it. So it was you, it was my cousin Diane, it was a lot of family members and neighborhood kids that they had selected, and like you said, by choice to go first. And then I believe they brought, after you all went first, they brought the white teachers into the Black schools, because I didn't have to attend, but I did get the white teachers at that time. They were brought to the elementary school when I was 2. And so I always says that once they brought the white teachers over, they moved the Black teachers out because they brought, North Carolina had brought in the called the North Carolina teacher bar exam. And it became very difficult for Black teachers to even pass the bar exam at that time because they weren't taught from Black colleges what the white colleges was teaching at the time. So those are my heroes that as I spoke before, that stays with my heart. Those foot soldiers, those are the ones that you're not going to always recognize that got out there and fought right along with the movement that making a change in our history. I also remember.
And I do have a story I want to share real quick pertaining to that time frame. I know that they had one swimming pool in town, and it was the white swimming pool. All right, I don't know if you remember the white swimming pool, but anyway, it got and down in North Carolina it gets hot, man. It gets hot, especially in eastern North Carolina. It gets hot in the summer. All right, and so we were protesting, that we could not go into the pool, right? So I guess what happened was there was some civil rights act that was, passed that allowed us to, it blocked the owner of the pool from discriminating based on race. So I never forget it. It was a hot day that day. I had my flip-flops, I had my bathing suit, towel, and everything. I was like 8 years old. I'm standing in the line because I was hot. I want to get in that pool and swim. Do you know what they did? They closed the swimming pool. They closed it.
Wow.
And we never got into that swimming pool. If you were waiting, you'd be standing there today. And this is like 1964. They closed the swimming pool. And that was that motivated me to be a good bottle thrower. I could throw a bottle, man. I could hit a guy from 30 feet, 40 feet right upside the head. I was good with that Coke bottle. But anyway, I digress.
You know what, though? I had to look it up really quickly. So you said what year was that around?
1964.
64.
And that's the one where it says in June 1964, James Brock dumped acid into the water at the Monsoon Motor Lodge in Florida. So I guess there was a lot of different, people were doing different things to make sure that they, that's terrible.
We grew up where there, if you went to the bus station or any place, there was a white bathroom and there was a colored, not black, colored.
We had remember the RNC restaurant? I remember RNC, they used to have a little window on the outside of the building. And I remember even as a small child that we would order from the outside. And I remember
going to my grandma and sit down.
You could not go in, but they had this glass window and you could peek through as a little girl and you could see all the white people sitting down there just eating. And blacks on the outside. Same thing with, Griffin Quit Lunch was the same thing. They had one side was real dingy looking. The best barbecue in the world, though. And the blacks was on that side, and then the restaurant of the whites could go on that side. And then the movie theater was always my best memory. We went upstairs. The black folks, we went upstairs. White folks,
right. We went in the balcony. Yep.
In the balcony. And every now and then, the black people, I always said we got a little upset, and they throw popcorn across the the balcony, popcorn, paper, and the movie attendant would come up and show us like, I'm telling y'all, don't do this again now. Don't do that. I'm gonna put y'all out. Well, nobody would say who done it. Occasionally they have the white police come in, turn the light on, but as soon as the light would go off, everybody just start throwing it again, and then eventually towards the end of the movie, everybody was. Not everybody, because I was a good girl, so I ain't gonna say everybody, but people would throw a little something over the balcony just to get a little steam out. But nobody never got arrested for that. Nobody. But
so was it a rule? What is a rule? Sorry, was it a rule at that time that you had to be separated, or was there an opportunity for you guys to sit downstairs? It's just that nobody realized they could do it.
There was no opportunity. There was
no opportunity. It was segregation.
Okay.
Flat segregations. That's right.
That's right.
Flat segregation.
We were contained.
No obligations whatsoever. No choice.
Wow.
That was you.
I remember.
We had to fight for that.
But it's strange how it's not so much strange, but how different it was in the North. Of course, I wasn't around, but when I hear it, like my mom, right, and she lived in the South, and she was born and raised up here in the North, and when she lived in the South, and she'd meet people that were her age, like my mom's going to be 72 next month, but she'd have conversation with people around her age, and they're like, "Yeah, you remember we used to pick cotton, and remember we used to do," and she's like, "Remember what?" And so you just don't realize how different it was in the North and the South. Even in the 1960s.
Well, that's
A
why you
lot
had
of
the
people
Great
migrated,
Migration.
I think. Yeah, a lot of people.
Yes.
Right.
Sometimes I believe a lot of people migrated up north just to get away from some of the southern racism and restriction and segregation. But I still feel that they still felt some of it. They, as they move up north, they may not get it as brutal or as strong forces as it was in the South, but they did experience some up north.
Well, that was one of the things when I came to New York. I took the Trailway, all right, the Trailway bus. You know, that was so exciting. I used to see that 8:15 New York Express, and I was riding on that. And I'll never forget, you know, leaving. That was my goal. When I was 12. Fortunately, I had an uncle that lived in Brooklyn. But since I was 12, I wanted to leave North Carolina. I could not wait. It was such a boring place. And then I had one of my stepfather, and I didn't live with him. I lived with my mom, raised me, but I used to go to my mother's house. And he would tell me, he said, yeah, you know, you should get a job at Whitney, whatever company. And what they do is, first they'll start you out in the yard, you know, picking up, cleaning up out in the yard. And if you do a good job, you'll be promoted right to the factory floor, all right? I could not comprehend that. I did not understand that. And I wasn't going to do that. Okay? And that just wasn't me. Another thing happened to me that I like to share in this forum is me and my friends, we used to love the swimming holes. Anywhere we could find a swimming hole, because they already closed the public swimming pool. So out near the football stadium, you know, where they're doing with the bulldozer digging holes and stuff, there was a hole and it had rained in it and it was just pretty. It was like a greenish color. It was just beautiful. You know, we were in there. And the cops, we saw the cops coming, right? This is in '60. So when the cops came, they got out of the car, and one guy heard them say, let's get a fishing rod. Because we were going underwater, trying to hide underwater. We'd come up with a little breath, and we'd go back down, try to hide. They came over there and said, you don't come out of that water, boys. I'm going to stick this rod and reel up your behind. Well, he didn't say it, so, you know, like I did. It was worse. But anyway, it was like, we're little boys, single digit in terms of age. So we got in, they put us in the back of the squad car, and they were driving. And one of them said, you know what we should do? We should take these boys out to the woods and shoot them. Nobody will miss them. You know what I said? Don't tell my mom, please. Don't tell my mama. I was so scared of my mom. I wasn't scared of them.
Point completely missed.
I was going to get a beat down. I know it. But anyway, they took us down and then they wouldn't allow us to put our clothes on. We were butt naked.
What?
Butt naked. They took us to the police station. We had to walk from the squad car into the police station, butt naked. It was like 4 of us, all right? And I don't know whether you remember Brad Bagley.
Yes, I remember him.
Yeah, he was a deputy police officer. They turned me over to him, and you know what? He gave me a beating with the police belt. All of us got a beating on our behind from Brad Bagley. And then the only thing that would come out of my mouth was, don't tell my mama. Don't tell mom, please. Don't tell my mama. And I was more afraid of her than I was of them. All right.
Do you feel like, I got a question, do you feel like Brad Bagley did that to protect you or to let you know we can't do it right now in this society?
I think it was a mixture of both. It was both.
Okay.
He did it to protect us, and he had, you know, and to demonstrate to them that there was some punishment, you know, that had to be meted out. And that belt, man, you don't want to, that was one of those utility belts too.
Wow.
But after we got out of there, I went home.
That was an interesting question, Briggette, because I would have never thought about that. I was, when you asked the question, I'm like, what do you mean to protect them? And then when you said to show them that there was some sort of consequence, it's like my mind is completely closed off to, like, just not even closed off, but illiterate, right, to some of the things that happened down there. And even maybe some of the ways that it could have been protection, where it's like, yeah, we want to show them that you can't do this and we can't have it become a thing. But maybe that guy was like, we're not going to persecute them, you know?
Don't forget, he was the only black cop.
Yes.
He made history by
also, he was black. Okay, got it.
He was black.
He was the only black. And I think he was the first, actually. He was the first black cop. He was the first black cop in the town.
Okay. So that makes, He
was the first black cop in that town. And I also, you know, I kind of have to go back a little bit on my unsung heroes, and I'm grateful that I was able to be around that time to appreciate the little people that made a big difference to get us where we got today. My grandmother used to always
Absolutely.
says, too much is given, much is expected. And so I feel like today we have to teach the younger generation that they have to give back in order to make a difference. This is a fight and a struggle to keep our history, but to continue building our community, they have to continue to educate themselves, for one thing, and they have to continue to support each other and support the community, and become the heroes, the unsung heroes that our parents came doing that struggle for us. We got some ways, but we still got a long ways to go. I feel personally.
Oh, we got to wait. We only, if you look at a 100-mile race, we only get done maybe 1.5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't realize it, but we got to step up to the plate more. We're on the backs of our ancestors, from that period of time.
Yep.
We're standing on their backs, but we're not reaching for the next level. And that's what this show is all about. That's what the Walt Week is all about.
But do you think that reaching for the next level, like this is a pivotal point where there is a need for community, valuable community, not community insofar as just saying the culture, because the culture is a lot of different things. There's a lot of segments of the culture moving in different directions. But when we talk about community, we look at other races, right? We look at the Jews, we look at the Chinese, we look at other communities that can build together. And I think, Walt, it may have been a conversation you and I had that was similar to looking at ATOS, right? The African descendants of slaves as a tribe, because there are certain things that our families have felt, negatively that has impacted potential opportunities. But I think, right, and this is very subjective, maybe one of the reasons why people of color don't band together as much as other areas is because it's possible, and this is just a theory that I have, it's possible that when the slaves became officially free, and you're trying to figure out, okay, I have my family, I have my immediate family, how do we become productive members of society, or how do we just stay alive, right? Because that was the introduction of the Jim Crow era as well. So if we're looking at, let's just say, when the slaves were freed, and they're now looking to provide a life for their families through most likely the only means that they knew how, which was farming and other things. Then the Jim Crow laws came into play. So now you have to worry about your husband, your wives, your sons, working and being thrown into jail for small infractions that never existed. So maybe that's when like that focus on family, your immediately family, started to hone in a lot stronger. And you're looking at, I need to make sure I can protect my family by any means possible. And it's possible that the community also looked at it like, we need to protect our community by any means possible because of these Jim Crow laws. But maybe people started to splinter off and become a little bit selfish, specific to their individual families, and stopped working together as a community, where now it's very hard for Black people to work and join forces as a community as other races are able to. That's just a thought that I'm kind of working through in my head, because it's like we have so many people of color, and a lot of times when you have disadvantaged groups, they tend to band together. You're bartering, you're banding together, you're watching each other's kids. You need to go do something and get something done. I got you, because I know I'm going to need you in the future. It seems like that style of community is becoming more disparate. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, because there are a lot of great people helping people. But when we look at it as a unit and take that unit and start having, we take that unit and that mindset and start developing business ideas and business plans and really growing the tribe, for lack of a better term, the same way the Jews and the Chinese are able to.
You are correct. We are a tribe. We are unique in this world. Okay? The African American is very unique. All right? And, for us to come together, the powers that be, they don't want that. They're going to do everything in their power to keep us the way we are, splintered, okay? But we have to come together. If we are to advance as a group, as a tribe, then we have to come together. And that's why I'm harking on this tribal thing. We have to start looking at ourselves as a tribe, like everybody else. You got your Japanese, you got your Chinese, you got your Jewish people. I mean, and you got your white people here. They are a tribe. And one thing that dawned on me one day is that I had never heard of a black think tank. There may be some out there. If they are, I don't hear anything from them. Okay.
So there's a group. There's a group I've been looking into a little bit more of, and maybe we can figure it out. Called the Gathering Spot. They are like a black networking organization in a lot of prominent areas. I believe it's like Atlanta, New York, maybe Chicago, LA. And it's more of like a private membership that is focused on community collaboration, culture, connecting people together, advancement of the purpose of, African Americans. And I'm learning more about it, which I think it's probably doing a little bit. It's Chicago, Detroit, Houston, New York, Charlotte as well. I was recently starting to dig a little bit more to understand, because if there, we know that there are a lot of black organizations that are for the advancements of black people and businesses. We do know that exists, but it would be awesome if we had a list of all of them and what maybe the mission statements and value statements and the differences between some of them are. Like, I know I used to work for Shea Moisture at the time when Richard Lou Dennis had just sold it to Unilever. And one of the things that he did was he sold Shea Moisture to Unilever, and he immediately turned around and purchased Essence magazine. And he said that he wanted to purchase Essence magazine because it was time that magazine remained back into the hands of people of color, so we can tell our own stories. Another thing he did at that time was opened up was it a scholarship or a grant called New Voices, where regardless of the type of black business that you had, you can put in an application for assistance. Now, and if you were selected, they would provide business mentorship. They would provide education, help you to learn how to grow your business, and connect you with some of the right people to make sure that you can be successful. And that kind of just not like they didn't give you a grant and drop you and to go about your business and figure it out, but they provided a full service business opportunity to make sure that you can succeed. So we know that there are things out there. I'm wondering if maybe there's an opportunity for us to pool all of the resources in one place and identify the offerings that they have and where they sit, so that people have access to this information.
Okay, cool.
And I'll send it. There's also another thing called that I recently joined called the National Society of Black Engineers, which has a lot of good information in it too.
I do want to go back to the fact that we are a tribe. I want people to know and think about this. I mean, I'm not telling you, we're not, like the sheep of Donald Trump. They just follow him. They follow him right over the cliff. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about coming together. And if you look at the hierarchy of what we should be prioritizing, and I know a lot of people prioritize God, family, and what? They don't prioritize the tribe. The tribe should be up there with right after family, or be, God, family, tribe. Or you can use them interchangeably. Tribe could go at the top, depending on who you are. But we have to start thinking of the tribe.
Is it possible that we have
together? Only way that we can come together.
When we use the word tribe, I see tribe as, from my own personal experiences growing up in a small town,
mm-hmm.
I saw that more as a tribe, a community. But I think
it was a tribe back then. It was a tribe
because we looked out for each other. We grew each other. You had people that had stores that fed each other, or our money went back into the local stores, the black stores, and the black cleaners, or the seamstress, or the hair salons, or the beauty shops, or so our resources was going back,
service,
and then
all that kind of stuff.
And when it comes to even down to the point as mentoring to our children, in the black schools back then, they made sure we spoke the English right. If you didn't know it, you had to stay after school until you got it.
That's right.
And that's what I saw as a tribe, a group of people who loved their culture, who loved being Black, and who loved each other and wanted to lift each other up. Because if it was somebody on my street or a single mom on my street that didn't have food, that's all they need to hear, because the sisters in the communities was bringing food, clothes, everything that they needed. There was a widower or a single mom, the neighbors that had a farm or chicken. Uncle Luke used to have chicken in the back. If he had his garden, or he brought all the people that needed some collards or some cabbages or carrots, same as my grandmother did. So that was a tribe. We were using our own resource, I felt like, within the tribe.
Yeah,
to
that's
help
what we were. We were self-sufficient. And a lot of places in this country was self-sufficient until they built the expressways and I-95, the interstates. They built it right over the communities. All right?
Do you think it has something to do with when we lost the village?
Absolutely.
Right. So I'm born in the late 70s, and I remember I grew up, and it took a village to raise a child, right? Anybody on you in the block on the block could fuss you out if you were misbehaving. I mean, it wasn't me; it was my sister with her mouth. But anyone could fuss at you. Anyone, there was no such thing as, at least, I mean, it could have been somewhere else, but there was no such thing as someone saying, are you talking like that to my child, kind of a thing. So, today, people are looking at the teachers, not to say that teachers are perfect, but like their kid could be doing something wrong, and it's like the teacher's fault. It's don't talk to my kid that way, don't look at my kid that way. And it's insane. And so it's like, one of the things with my kids, my oldest, so I have one that's 29 and 23, when they were younger and they had friends, they knew who could come in the house and who couldn't come in the house. You couldn't bring an unruly child in my house because I wasn't having it. And I used to tell their friends, as soon as you cross over this threshold at the door, you become my child. I'll love you like you're mine, and you could get it like you're mine as well.
Yeah, true.
And so
it's in the back of the bag.
And there's a loss for that. Like, I used to go to my son's football games in the middle school and the high school, and you could hear, the kids are cheering on, but then they're like behind you in the bleachers cursing, and you turn and look at them, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's funny because, my ex used to say, he used to be shocked that the kids would apologize in my neighborhood because he's a cop in the city. And he was like, goodness gracious, if I was in the city, the kids, you turn around and look at the kids and they'll be cursing you out still. At least the kids are stopping here. But I'm like, yeah, but when I was growing up, you never curse. You would never fix your lips to curse in the presence of an adult.
I couldn't even say fool. I couldn't say lie. I couldn't say fool. Remember that? Yeah, you remember that, right? We couldn't say certain things.
Didn't say anything.
So I've always heard of that. I've always heard of that, but I don't feel like I saw that a lot here. But I've always heard that you couldn't say a lie, you couldn't call somebody a fool, you couldn't call somebody stupid. Right. I feel like there were some other things that you kind of couldn't say. But I was like a quiet kid, so maybe it just never. Yeah, if I asked my sister, there's probably a lot that she wanted to say, which is why she always got in trouble for her mouth.
But we did the village. The village was like that. The village or the tribe was like that. If I would walk from school, I was a good girl like you. Hey, I'm gonna take my props. I was a good girl. But if you walk from school,
I didn't see her. She was so nice and quiet. I didn't even see her.
You couldn't even see me. But if my other sister might be loudmouth and some in the neighborhood cussing, you might have your Miss Minnie Bass or somebody come out. Now y'all better stop, because I'm gonna get a hold of you. And then I'm going to tell your mama, and then your grandmama going to get you too. So that's how it was. Our village, our tribe was, in the neighborhood. So we help rear our children as a village, as a tribe. You help bring up everybody's children on that
Absolutely.
street.
Absolutely. And don't get a bad report card. All right? Everybody in the town knew you had a bad report card.
Yeah.
Before you even got home, everybody knew it. And
wow.
Your mother would be standing in that door waiting for you. Let me see that report card, boy. What happened? You get in there, take your clothes out. I'm not going to beat you now. I'm not going to beat the clothes that I bought. You go to bed. I'll get you later. And that would be
and they will wait until you go to sleep and you get your whooping.
Yeah, they come in there like a monster, man.
You remember that old school? You think I forgot?
This is in the 60s. I grew up in the 60s. in 70s. Yeah.
And it's funny because now as a parent, I used to wonder because I didn't get a whole lot of spankings. I really didn't. Even though my kids don't believe my mom when she says it, they're like, yeah, no, she didn't really get a spanking too much. She was a good kid. But you're like, I developed a mouth as a teenager, so now my kids know me as an adult, and they're like, there's no way she didn't get as many beatings growing up. But the thing is, I do remember like your parents sending you to your room, and why couldn't they just come and spank you? Why were you in there for hours going through anxiety and heart palpitations, wondering when they're finally going to come in? So I guess that was like from a back in the day kind of thing. And then you fall asleep and now you got to wake up.
Believe it or not, guys, is that my kids, I never beat them, all right? It was always go to bed, go to your room, or this and that. They only got beat one time, and that was because I came home, then my wife came home, and they were not around. We were looking for them. All right? They left the house without permission, even though they told their grandma, my mother-in-law, that they were going outside. But she didn't hear them or she wasn't paying attention. But I'm looking for my kids. I'm thinking somebody took them, and it's still the same way. They kidnapped my kids. I was really, man, I was mad. I was scared first. Then when I saw them, that relief came. But then the anger came. That they walked out of this house without my permission, without telling anybody. And they were like maybe 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. Right? In elementary school, I know they were. Yeah. And I got my belt and I beat them. And my mother-in-law said, you got to stop hitting them. Don't hit them anymore. And then I looked at them and I said, okay. I mean, I started crying. And not in front of them, but a little bit after, I said I'll never hit my kids again. And I did.
From that point.
You know what?
I think we got away from that eventually as society changed. We kind of got away from the way our parents disciplined us. We got into the new way of psychological way or therapy way, whatever we want to label it, of talking to them first, which is effective. Put them in this punishment, but you still always says, hold the rod back for when you're going to really need it, if you have to. So talking is effective and sitting them down, taking things away. But sometimes you might have to resort to the old-fashioned touch. I put it that way.
Well,
my kids used to think that kids used to think, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, don't forget that even in school, we got the paddle.
We got the paddle in school.
Maybe and you had to hold your hand out. And the teacher would
spell that word
go
right.
back and pop you right in the hand like 5, 10 times, till you drop to your knees sometime. I mean, I always I was a troublesome guy. I was troublesome. So I'm always getting a beating. All right?
But you know what? I thought of recently in the last couple of months, and I had this conversation with my son, because like I said, he's 29 now, and over the last couple of years, as he's been nearing 30 and getting more mature, we have like a lot of adult conversations. Now, he doesn't have kids, but it dawned on me, I said, the African American community has almost always prided themselves on the style of spanking and discipline that was given to the children. But when you think about it, with slavery not being so long ago, I think that we have been mimicking what the slave masters did to us, right? They would whip and spank, and not to say that it was to the same abusive extent, but if slaves only saw getting whipped and spanked as a form of discipline, then when they became free and they're trying to discipline their kids or make sure that their kids don't fall subject to the Jim Crow laws, they're now whipping and spanking their kids like the slave masters did. So I think that there's a level of mimicking that's being done where it definitely, kind of using the rod, for lack of a better term, helps in certain areas. But I agree with like what Briggette was saying, use different methods.
But spare the rod for the child. That's what I grew up on. That was a philosophy behind beating. And not just that. That was not just, African American thing. That was all folks beat their kids. They got into trouble. There was discipline. Right?
And there was also in my house discipline. It was discipline. Yes, it was in my household. My mom and she was single. My mom used a little bit of both. You got that whooping first, but sometimes she would take things away from us, or she's saying you're not going to be on the phone for this week. You can't talk to no friends this week, or you can't go out. And that was just effective, that you couldn't go outside and play, see your friends. So I would say maybe some that we mimic slave owners and some, but I think our Black people, we use it to protect our children, whereas slave owner uses it to have authority over us. But maybe our
Right. There
moms
was
Yeah,
no
that makes
malice behind it.
But there is
All
a
right.
level of, and I'm going to challenge our people because there is a level of authority that we, as people of color, tend to have and require over the children, and and again, I have been an authoritative parent, but like my son's 29 and I've got a 14-year-old that's the youngest, so I feel like I've been parenting for a very long time now. It's time for this everyday parenting to come to an end. But as you kind of look at how I parented before and now, I kind of do see some things, like even though my oldest kids, they got spanked, they got things taken away. As a matter of fact, they used to think that I bought things for them so that I could have it to take it away, maybe a little bit. But I also used to make them write letters. They would have to write a front and back letter, handwritten. It could not be double spaced. When they did something wrong, it would have to be a paragraph about what they did, a paragraph about why they thought it was okay, and then a paragraph to say, what could you have done differently? Because I used to I've got a whole box full of letters, because I wanted them to be able to think about, think through the process and what they did wrong. And even if you feel like you shouldn't have gotten spanked for it, but what could have been done differently? I didn't do too much time out in the corner. There was, some grounding going on. I know growing up when I was a kid, I would take if I had a choice between getting grounded and a spanking, I'll take a spanking, because like you get it, it's one and done. I'm not trying to be in the room next week still.
I'm laughing. The reason I'm laughing
And
at that is
actually, our
I
Black
would probably
teachers.
take the spanking too. Yeah. But that depends.
But if you
and
remember
it,
when my day growing up, if a student in the classroom did something wrong, you did have to stay back and write on that board, I will not do this. I will learn to do this. So there was
yeah, I
a form
remember
of
that. I've forgotten about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for bringing that up.
stay
Yeah,
back and
1,000
write notes,
times.
So one of the things I was going to get at is when I was telling my son about, the thought of, how we spank our kids. And then he said, because, these things come much later. He was like, Ma, I think that people should raise their kids the way you raised us. He was like, there was a lot of love in the house. He said, but you also taught us what it was to be accountable, to feel rejection. He's like, but we knew that you loved us. And I was like, how many years did we? I was like, all right, I'm waiting for your sister to come up.
I just want to share one more thing, and then we're going to close out, is that the times I used to get a whooping. I don't know about you, but Bridget. And I know, Sakina, you already said that you never got a whooping, right?
No, I've gotten them before.
Oh, you did get them? Okay, good.
I
That's
got them.
good. That's why you're the way you are.
I got them because other people was the reason why I got them. It wasn't nothing I did.
That's what I was about to say. I could probably count on one hand and probably not fill up the hand on if I've gotten spanked because of something I did. But if it was something like that whole you are your brother's sister's keeper nonsense. Yeah. No.
I got one.
Okay.
I got one because of my oldest sister and my brothers, not my oldest, but my sister's siblings was in my mother's house when my oldest cousin Joan, she don't mind me calling her name, was dating her boyfriend, and we was peeping under the curtain, and I accidentally pulled the curtain down, trying to see what they were looking at.
Boy, you're some spy, man, really.
She was quiet.
And so Grandma,
couldn't be on my team.
we didn't supposed to be in there, but I felt like I got most of the licks, but it was those kind of things. I'm following the older siblings, so
all right. So anyway, look, we need to close out.
And I didn't like discipline, so but just I know I want to
let me share one
little
thing. Corporal punishment. That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
right? Is that Ma always told me to go outside and bring her a switch. Right, so I had to go out there, and I had to look up at the tree or look at the bush, and she would tell me, "Don't bring anything small. You don't want me to go out there and get it." So I'm standing there, I'm crying, I'm trying to make a decision. It was a heavy decision to make, right? So I would go, get more than probably what she needed. So this one particular day, I don't know if you've seen those long, not vines, they're like weeds or like bamboo shoot, but not bamboo, but they were long. We used to make bow and arrows out of them. But they had a whip. They would be big at the beginning, and then they would taper down to like a skinny end. And I made a mistake of getting that switch. When I took it inside, Mom started beating me. Then I ran. And it was just like somebody with a whip. The tip of that switch hit me in the back of the neck. The tip, only the tip. And I fell backwards. I never forget it. I was running.
I was about to say, it took you down, right?
It took me down. I fell backwards.
Listen, you don't mess with the mamas in the tribe, okay? They know how to handle a switch,
That's right.
a little one, a long one. Don't matter. But don't mess with the mamas in the tribe because they can catch you. Don't think you can outrun them. Don't ever go out there and bring them the wrong size switch. Get the one they want because they're gonna learn how to use that. And I just wanted to say, as far as the tribe is concerned, I felt like those whipping helped discipline us and kept us where we need to be and safe in life, to prosper in life, to get the things that we can and stay focused. I think to children today,
I could done without them. See, my brother, right? It was my brother, my sister, and I. We're all about 2 years apart. I'm the youngest. My parents had a line, especially my mom. She had a line. My sister and I understood where the line was. My brother knew where the line was. He liked to tap dance on it and on the other side. So we would see what happens when you get close to the line and cross over it. So my sister and I kind of, we did things a little differently to stay out of trouble. But looking at him getting in trouble was enough for us to realize we didn't want that life.
All right. So anyway, we need to close out the show. I do want to say, first off, that I thank you. I thank Keenah. I thank Briggette. And it was a great show. All right. And our audience will be listening to this, guys. Let me just say that we appreciate our audience and we try to do shows that are relevant to them. All right. To our tribe. That's why we do this show. All right. For the benefit of our tribe and our future tribe, our kids, our great-grandkids. I'm a great-grandfather, so I can say this. And our great-great-great-great-grandpa. One good thing about doing a show like this is it's going to be out there for eternity. It's going to always be in the ether. So your kids can come back and listen to how you thought. How did Grandpa think about this? How did great-great-great-grandpa Walter, handle that situation? We make history. We're making history here. This is going to be laid down. It's documented. It's always going to be out there for our posterity and our legacy. It's going to be there. And I do want to say, guys, whoever's listening to this show, I need you to click on that subscribe button, whatever platform, whether it be Apple, Google Play, or Spotify, whatever. One good thing about the Walt Weekly is the fact that we are on every major streaming platform. And we also have our website, www.thewaltweekly.com. Go there, check us out, make comments. I need you guys to like. Don't like me on Facebook, all right? That's good. You can like me on Facebook, but also like me on the podcast itself, all right? Rate us on Apple, all right? This is our 5th year, 5 years, and we're growing. I want to thank all y'all guys that listen. But tell your friends, your family, spread the word because we want to get the truth out there. All right, there's too many diversions and a lot of nonsense that goes on. But we add value by bringing forth the truth, by bringing folks that are living this life and their experiences and what they face. And we just want them to know that we appreciate them. But please, for the Walt Weekly, if you like the show, subscribe, like, tell your friends, disseminate it all over. All right? Because we are all over. We are global. People listen to us from Oman, Saudi Arabia, Brazil. We are a global podcast. So with that said, I want to thank everybody. Again, I want to return to my guest, well, actually my co-host. All right? And I want to just give a shout out to Michelle. And she'll be back soon. But Keenah, thank you. Briggette, /Bot, /my niece, thank you so much. I love you both. Y'all guys have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
All right.
You
bye-bye.
too.